Netflix is home to a lot of great Western movies and TV shows, so today I'm going to rank the top 20 that are available to stream right now and forever, regardless of what country you're watching from. So let's get started. So at number 20, we have The Ridiculous Six, a 2015 Western comedy written by and starring Adam Sandler. So as you might expect, the movie is full of slapstick humour and wacky characters, this time lampooning the Western genre in a similar way to Blazing Saddles. But critics absolutely panned the movie from all fronts upon its release, for its juvenile humour and lazy satire. However, it's clearly a movie that was never intended to be taken seriously, and as long as you don't, Ridiculous Six offers some mindless entertainment with more than a few memorable skits. So at number 19, we have Brigands: The Quest for Gold, a 2024 TV show about a woman who flees her village in 19th century Italy to become an unlikely member of a group of bandits, as they rebel against the crown in search of a great fortune. Now, although the show is based on true historical events, it approaches them with a unique blend of different genres, while very much feeling like an Italian western, featuring lots of action and impressive cinematography. And for that reason, the six-part series has been called Peaky Blinders meets Django Unchained, which is fairly accurate if not a little over-generous for a show that was likely made on a much smaller budget. At number 18, we have Hold the Dark, a 2018 neo-western directed by Jeremy Saulnier, best known for The Green Room and Blue Ruin. And the movie stars Jeffrey Wright, who delivers a compelling performance as a wolf expert drawn into a mystery involving missing children and sinister forces, all set against the frozen Alaskan wilderness. Now, the film is very much a slow burn, with more than a few puzzling twists, which will put some people off, but this neo-western is very effective in building an unsettling atmosphere and features some really impressive talent and visuals for a smaller budget movie. At number 17, we have The Killer, a 2017 western set in early 1900s Brazil, which follows a feared killer called Shaggy who was raised in the wilderness by a local bandit after being abandoned as a child. So when his surrogate father one day goes missing, Shaggy is forced to return to civilization, where he goes head-to-head with a ruthless Frenchman who runs the local precious stone trade. So despite its unusual setting, The Killer offers everything you would expect from a classic western, while also featuring lots of gritty action, impressive cinematography, and a few welcome quirks that really give the film a unique sense of character. At number 16, we have El Camino Christmas, a 2017 neo-western comedy starring Yellowstone regular Luke Grimes, as part of a larger ensemble cast that includes Vincent D'Onofrio and Tim Allen. And the plot follows a young man searching for his estranged father, before winding up barricaded in a liquor store with 5 other people on Christmas Eve, leading to a tense standoff full of mishaps and unexpected turns. Now, it'd be a stretch to call El Camino Christmas an out-and-out comedy, or even a Christmas film, but it certainly has elements of both, with a surprising amount of drama and heart behind it too, so it's not a bad film to watch around the holidays. At number 15, we have Far, a neo-western movie set in a remote area of India in the 1980s. So far from a typical western, yet it really succeeds in injecting all the hallmarks of the genre into its unlikely setting, following a lawman who sees a chance to prove himself by solving a murder in a sleepy desert town that has some very dark secrets. But be warned that the film doesn't pull its punches in terms of violence and challenging themes, but it is beautifully shot and well acted, offering a completely original take on the western genre for those looking for something fresh. At number 14, we have Montford the Chickasaw Rancher, a 2021 western movie inspired by the true story of Montford T. Johnson, who managed to carve out a life for himself as a rancher in the American frontier. Now, given the obvious restraints of its budget, Montford does a pretty commendable job in bringing this little-known real-life story to the big screen, doing so with a lot of sincerity and a keen eye for historical accuracy. It also features a who's who of Western regulars, including Martin Sensmeyer, Dermot Mulroney, and Tommy Flanagan. So again, another film worth checking out for fans of the genre, especially those looking for stories with historical grounding. At number 13, we have Blood and Gold, a 2023 film probably best described as a Second World War spaghetti western set in Germany. So unsurprisingly, the movie is full of complex characters, pulpy action, and impressive cinematography, all revolving around a German deserter and a young woman drawn into a bloody battle with a group of Nazis hunting for hidden gold. So if you ever wondered what Inglorious Bastards, directed by Sergio Leone, would be like, Blood and Gold is your answer, as well as a real hidden gem. At number 12, we have Concrete Cowboy, a 2020 neo-western drama starring Idris Elba and Caleb McLaughlin, who play an estranged father and son that find kinship in a tight-knit Philadelphia community of black cowboys. And the pair both deliver some of the best performances of their career, in what proves to be an effective, heartfelt drama that shines a light on the real-life, century-long tradition of black cowboys in Philadelphia. Now, the plot can feel fairly predictable at times, but the movie is still an interesting, entertaining urban western, all built around a compelling father-son story. At number 11, we have The Highwayman, a 2019 neo-western crime thriller written by Young Guns screenwriter John Fusco. The movie also features another regular of the western genre in Kevin Costner, who alongside Woody Harrelson play former Texas Rangers in the 1930s, who set out to capture the notorious real-life outlaws Bonnie and Clyde. And this take on the famous story feels like one of the most authentic and grounded to date, featuring a rich, character-driven story that proves to be a perfect fit for Costner and Harrelson. So this movie will really appeal to fans of westerns, and especially those who like Kevin Costner. At number 10, we have The Harder They Fall, a star-studded western that brings together all the most famous real-life black figures of the Wild West in one film, from Nat Love to Stagecoach Mary. The plot, however, is fictional and revolves around a vengeful outlaw forming a formidable posse to take on a ruthless crime boss and his deadly gang. Although, for the most part, the story takes a backseat to the action, in what might be the most dynamically shot, visually striking western to release in years. So if you're looking for a fast-paced, action-packed western, you really can't go wrong with The Harder They Fall. At number 9, we have Frontier, a historical western TV show that famously starred Jason Momoa. And in the show, he plays Declan Harp, a half-Irish, half-Cree outlaw at the forefront of the early fur trade in Canada. And across all of its 3 seasons, Momoa steals the show with his fierce, charismatic performance in an action-packed story full of memorable characters and historical drama, making it a really good pick for fans of gritty western TV shows like Hell on Wheels or 1883. At number 8, we have El Camino, a 2019 feature film continuation of the hugely popular TV show Breaking Bad, taking place directly after its finale. So the film picks up with Aaron Paul's Jesse Pinkman straight after escaping being imprisoned, leaving him on the run from the law and desperate to start a new life. Now, Breaking Bad itself always flirted with elements of the Western genre, but El Camino fully embraces them, acting as a fairly standalone neo-Western movie all about a fugitive fighting for redemption and attempting to escape his past, with the New Mexico desert as a backdrop. So whether you watched Breaking Bad or not, Western fans in general will find a lot to like about El Camino. At number 7, we have Wyatt Earp and the Cowboy War, a 2024 docudrama all about the legendary feud between Wyatt Earp and Ike Clanton. And although films like Hour of the Gun, Wyatt Earp and Tombstone have all done a great job of dramatizing the famous gunfight at the OK Corral, this 6-episode docuseries goes one step further, by delving much deeper into all the individual stories and players behind it. And it does it in style, featuring really gritty, well-produced reenactments that at times look good enough to be a feature film, starring experienced actors and a voiceover from Ed Harris that really ties it all together. At number 6, we have The Power of the Dog, a 2021 Western psychological drama starring Cody Smith-McPhee, Jesse Plemons, Kirsten Dunst, and Benedict Cumberbatch. And frankly, Cumberbatch makes the movie his own, with a career-best performance as Phil Burbank, an elusive, chilling rancher who drives his sister-in-law to the brink of madness without ever really lifting a finger, causing her son to put himself between the pair in an effort to save her. So the Power of the Dog is far from a traditional, clear-cut Western tale of good versus evil, but instead it proves to be a complex, slow-burn drama that actively challenges the viewer in a way that will either leave you utterly captivated by its lingering mysteries or bored senseless by its purposeful pacing. At number 5, we have Damnation, a single-season TV show set in 1930s Iowa during the American labor wars of the Great Depression. And the show successfully combines Western and noir elements with a story that centers on a feud between a preacher and a Pinkerton agent in a small town full of deep-seated corruption and secrets. So Damnation is a dark, gritty show with plenty of shocking twists and interesting character dynamics that will likely appeal to fans of Deadwood. Unfortunately, similar to Deadwood, Damnation was cancelled long before its time after just one season, but it still works pretty well as a standalone story. At number 4, we have News of the World, a 2020 Western movie directed by Paul Greengrass, best known for the Bourne films and Captain Phillips. And teaming up with the director again is Tom Hanks, who plays a Civil War veteran who travels from town to town reading the news, until one day he encounters a young girl taken by a Native American tribe, prompting him to set out on a perilous journey to return her to her family. So News of the World does have its fair share of tense and action-packed moments, but for the most part it's really more of a sedate, heartfelt road trip movie, which relies a lot on the appeal of Tom Hanks, who puts in an excellent performance from start to finish. At number 3, we have Longmire, a 2012 procedural neo-western crime drama that ran for 6 seasons and famously starred Robert Taylor. And in the show, he plays Sheriff Walt Longmire, who operates in rural Wyoming, solving crimes while mourning the death of his wife. And as far as modern westerns go, Longmire is up there with the very best, featuring a strong ensemble cast and a thoroughly entertaining narrative that becomes more compelling with each subsequent season. So if you like shows like Justified or Walker, you owe it to yourself to check out Longmire. At number 2, we have The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, a 2018 Western anthology movie directed by the Coen brothers, who are no strangers to westerns, having previously directed No Country for Old Men and True Grit. And honestly, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs is just as good as either of those movies, if not very different, as it's actually split into 6 distinct stories, all featuring unique characters and storylines. But all of them are just as effective and memorable as each other, featuring a unique blend of humour and tragedy throughout, as well as a number of standout performances from its impressive ensemble cast. So without question, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs is a must-watch Western movie that's easily one of the best you'll find on the platform. So at number 1, we have Godless, a 2017 limited series written and directed by Scott Frank, who previously wrote Logan and Minority Report. And for Godless, he managed to assemble a huge cast that includes the likes of Jack O'Connell, Scoot McNairy, and Jeff Daniels, who delivers an utterly unforgettable performance as the villainous outlaw Frank Griffin. And the story essentially revolves around his efforts to get revenge on his former protege, who seeks refuge with a formidable widow while inadvertently leading Frank to a nearby town run entirely by women, who must band together to fend him off. Now that summary probably doesn't do the show justice, as what really makes Godless so impressive is just how well written and confidently directed it is, turning a premise that might sound fairly generic on paper into one of the most fresh and memorable Western TV shows in recent years. So with all the Westerns on Netflix, Godless has to be the one that I'd recommend you check out first. Now you may have noticed that this video didn't cover every single Western available on Netflix right now, and that's because outside of the ones I listed, the rest are all inevitably going to leave the platform at some stage, just to be replaced by new ones. And to make things worse, the search on Netflix feels very algorithm-led and prone to giving you irrelevant results when searching for a particular genre. So my advice would be that the next time you're looking for new Westerns on Netflix, just type 7700 into the search bar, and it should bring up every Western mentioned in this video, as well as any new ones that have been added since. Also, if you found this video interesting, you might also want to check out this one right here.